Have you ever had a colleague who annoyed you so much but didn't know what to do with it? In this video, I would like to share my experience and my effective strategies what to do with one. Make sure that you stick with us till the end of the video and capture what you really need. More than 90% of the employees have at least one colleague who annoys them so much. So it's more likely that at some point in your career you will cross with someone who is going to irk you. It happened with me when I started my career as an L&D specialist in a big multinational environment. I was super enthusiastic, keen to learn, and ambitious enough to implement new learning solutions. After a couple of months, I realized something is wrong. One of my colleagues always pushed back my ideas and turned down my enthusiastic approach. I still remember his voice and phrases. "Rita, you don't know how the things run here. You can try, but it won't work anyway. You want to change that process? Good luck with that." Ended up with a sarcastic smile. He consumed most of my energy at work. I became very frustrated by his presence and anxious when I had to interact with him. I felt alone in the situation. So I started to vent about him to the others in the corridor in order to erase my frustration. Soon, I realized this is not who I am. So let's cope with this situation before I resign from my first position. So what were my strategies back then? Firstly, I tried to ignore him completely, which was quite a challenge because we belonged to the same team and shared many projects together. Secondly, I tried to overwin his negativity with my positive attitude. So I started to say sentences louder and louder like, "Let's do it together. I believe we can." Thirdly, I acted like a small girl who was insulted by him. You can guess. Surprisingly, none of this really helped me to feel better and manage this difficult situation professionally. So, based on my current knowledge, what would I do differently? So let me share my strategies with you, which would provide you a better understanding how to deal with your annoying coworker. Daniel Goleman is a psychologist and the author of Emotional Intelligence book says that handling a difficult coworker has less to do with how you treat them and more to do with how you prepare yourself. So my first advice is start with yourself. First, identify your feelings and why you feel a certain way. The first step to coping with an annoying coworker is to check in with yourself why you are around them. It's important to identify what you're feeling and understand which actions you find triggering, and look more closely what it can teach you about yourself. This leads you to recognize what's going on. By identifying your feelings and the reaction, you can better anticipate them and regulate yourself. So in my story, I still remember that I felt annoyed and belittled by my colleague's presence and actions. Why? Because he was incooperative, change-resistant, and high-minded. So I learned about myself that for me it's important to be part of a supportive and a positive team. So my second advice, prepare yourself in advance. Goleman says, give yourself a little prep talk before you go to the office. Something like, okay, I know I'm going to spend 2 hours with this person who knows triggers me, but this is just about this person. It's not about me, and I don't have to react. You can also practice mindfulness and/or breathing techniques, which really can help you to relax in the moment. Research suggests that by recognizing how your coworker bothers you and how you prepare for dealing with them, you can recover more quickly. You cannot control what's in life going to trigger you, but you can control how long you stay triggered and upset for it. In my case, if I'd known this earlier, I would have prepared myself mentally and physically before having a meeting with, and expect him to behave in his usual way. Because overall, he didn't have a problem with me, but he had one with himself. So my third advice, approach your colleague with the problem. Surprisingly, this is a great opportunity to provide peer feedback and look solution together. Firstly, approach your colleague with the problem and try to avoid gossiping behind your colleague's back. It's important to keep and remain professional. If you are interested in how to give and receive proper feedback, make sure that you come back later and check out our news videos about it. In my story, my feedback would have looked this way. Last time, when we discussed about my project, I felt annoyed and belittled by your comment and reaction. Even if you don't agree with my attitude, how can we work effectively together? I would like to ask you to respect my thoughts and ideas and reflect them on a professional manner. My fourth advice, last but not least, if nothing really helps, then ask for help. Sometimes dealing with an annoying coworker takes more than just one conversation. I advise you to look for a mentor, a coach, or even a friend. First of all, you have a chance to talk about freely, and they might change your perspective. Finally, if nothing really helps, then it's time to open a conversation with your manager. In my situation, after our feedback session, if nothing would have changed, I would have discussed it with my manager. So which of the 4 strategies could you incorporate in your own situation? If you like this video and found it useful, give us a thumbs up and make sure that you come back for further leadership practices. See you soon!